What's up? It's Alan Ramos,
Boom, 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 boom.
dancer, and you are watching PhilippineNews.com.
General Manager of the Santa Clara County Open Space Authority. She is going to give us an overview of Prop Q. And thank you, Andrea.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so very much for being here. I'm thrilled about today's event and the opportunity to share with you who the Santa Clara Valley Open Space Authority is and why this measure we are placing on the ballot is so very important. You know, it was about 20 years ago that the Open Space Authority was formed by a group of dedicated and concerned citizens across the Santa Clara Valley who wanted to see our local landscapes protected, and in doing so preserve our quality of life here in the fastest growing part of California. If I might just, by a show of hands, when you hear the word or the term open space, how many of you kind of don't quite know what that means? Wow. Well, I'm actually kind of pleased to hear that, because sometimes when you're talking to folks in the tech industry, open space is the cubicle next door that doesn't have somebody sitting in it. And ecosystems sometimes are described as the realm of how the tech industry, the space they work in. But we know actually those terms are really about the natural environment, and that's what I want to talk to you about. The Open Space Authority, or the OSA, as we're sometimes referred to, because we all like acronyms, right? We've preserved or protected 16,000 acres of open space and water resources and wildlife habitat and local farmland in the Santa Clara Valley, which you may remember or know was once called the Valley of the Heart's Delight. Well, the Valley of the Heart's Delight is hurting. We've paved over about 45% of the landscapes that used to be known as the Valley of the Heart's Delight, and our organization and agency is one of those working to protect what's remaining. A third of those 16,000 acres that we've already protected with public monies are open to the public as open space preserves, places the public can go to enjoy natural landscapes, to enjoy nature and scenic views and hillsides and creeks and streams with their families and their friends. Those are open 365 days a year, free of charge. You can walk, you can bike, you can bird watch, you can ride a horse, you can just plain relax in these places all across Santa Clara Valley. Why do we preserve open space, land in its natural state? It provides every one of us with clean water sources, creeks and streams, room for wildlife to roam free, beautiful scenic hillsides, places for our kids to learn about nature, and hopefully they'll be inspired, like my 12-year-old daughter, to follow in our footsteps. In actuality, these lands, these open space lands, belong to each one of us. They belong to our communities. No matter which neighborhood we live in, no matter what our income level is, no matter our country of origin, these lands are all of our lands. But we need a secure source of funding to maintain these natural open space lands in perpetuity, and to continue to protect thousands more acres of land across the Santa Clara Valley, because these lands are at risk of development. I mentioned we're in the fastest growing county in California. In the next 30 years, 600,000 more people will come to Santa Clara County. 36% increase in our growth. So our small staff of 20 professionals that works really efficiently with the existing funds that we have is looking ahead 30 years down the road. We see this growth coming. We know that land prices are rising, and we're in the business of buying land and protecting land. We have a severely outdated 20-year-old funding source, goes back to 1994. So Measure Q, this measure on the ballot, answers these calls. It says we will provide a reliable source of funding here in Santa Clara County over the next 15 years at a very small cost to our local residents. $24 per parcel, uniformly applied. Everybody pays the same across the Santa Clara Valley. This investment, upfront investment, will give us an enormous return on investment to implement a really bold vision. And over the last couple years, I'd say year and a half, 18 months, the Open Space Authority has heard a lot of community input about what are our priorities to protect these landscapes surrounding our cities and the open space and parks and trails and creeks inside of our cities. Where are these places and what are the highest priorities? And so to identify these high priority conservation areas, we engaged the community to put together a 30-year conservation vision. And I hope you've picked up one of these. This is the Santa Clara Valley Green Print that came out just this spring in 2014. It identifies the highest priority conservation lands and the strategies to protect them. And we had the participation of conservation scientists and community leaders and elected officials and neighborhood leaders across the county to put this together. When we consider what should we spend our public monies on, our modest funds that we get, which is about $4.1 million a year, we carefully evaluate lands and properties to determine these priorities. And the things that we look at that are the highest priority and the most important are water resources. Did you know that 50% of the water supply in Santa Clara County is under the ground? It comes from groundwater, it comes from nature, it comes from creeks and streams. And yet we've already paved over 60% of that natural recharge land, that floodplain. So water resources is a really high priority for us. Agricultural land. 27,000 acres of farmland remains in the fastest growing county in California. If the federal government were to look at it, or state government, 27,000 acres doesn't sound like very much, but that's all that's left of the Valley of the Heart's Delight. We want to protect every one of those 27,000 acres of land that's left. Critical wildlife habitat. Santa Clara County is one of the most biologically rich areas in California. And local leaders recently adopted a sweeping plan across this valley called the Valley Habitat Plan to work with us to try and protect these lands. Last but certainly not least, how do we get our public, our youth, our diverse public engaged in these open space lands? Let them know they're for them, for their enjoyment. Where are the places that can best be accessed by our increasingly urban populations? So that's what the Santa Clara Valley Green Print is all about. And Measure Q is about implementing this. So passing Measure Q will do a couple of things. And I want to just show you one more thing, if I could. Please pick up one of these brochures today, because inside it is a map of our jurisdiction. 1,000 square miles, almost the entirety of Santa Clara County, is covered by our jurisdiction. What would Measure Q do? We've identified 30 high priority projects in this measure. Thousands more acres of open space, up to 15,000 more acres of open space would be conserved. Many, many more miles of trails so close to our communities would be opened up. We would protect our local creeks and streams in partnership with our cities and nonprofit organizations. And we would protect the most pristine remaining wilderness lands for wildlife habitat in Santa Clara County. Because wildlife, we need to kind of give them a break, figuratively and literally. Our wildlife, we see the roadkill every day on our roads and highways. They're struggling. There are not many places that wildlife can move across our rapidly growing county anymore. In fact, there's only two main corridors, if you will, left in Santa Clara County for our wildlife to move. In the Coyote Valley and down near the Gilroy border in the Pajaro River, and we're going to protect those. And lastly, but not certainly least, farmland. Where does our local food come from? Our food shed that keeps us healthy and provides us with locally grown food. It keeps our agricultural industry, which is increasingly diverse. How do we keep them in business? And one of the things I want to tell you about is this weekend, in fact, today's Friday, tomorrow, in the Coyote Valley, the last remnant of the Valley of the Heart's Delight, we are opening the Coyote Valley Open Space Preserve and celebrating agriculture and local food. We already have 2,500 people from around the Bay Area that say they're coming. I don't know how many more have told us they're not coming. But you're going to taste fresh local food, chefs making dishes for us to taste from that local food, kids entertainment. You'll see what it's like for local ranchers who are still roping their cattle. How is that technique done? And you'll learn about our efforts to conserve places like this for the benefit of the public. One of the reasons that I am so keen on Measure Q is not just to protect what I call our life support system, our lungs, right? These lands that surround our cities, that capture our water, that sequester our carbon, provide us with oxygen, provide us with room to breathe. What about in the cities themselves? Do you know that about 72% of our voting public in our 1,000 square mile area lives in the city of San Jose? 72%. So how are we working with the cities of San Jose, Milpitas, Campbell, Santa Clara, and Morgan Hill? Well, through Measure Q, 25% of the funds generated for Measure Q, which will be about $30 million over 15 years, will come right back into our cities and our partners with our cities and our nonprofit organizations like the Guadalupe River Parks Conservancy. So we can do projects like we've prioritized in the brochure, including a brand new nature center right on the Guadalupe River in partnership with the Children's Discovery Museum, one of the top 10 children's museums in the nation. It's really, really important that we connect our growing communities with nature and the benefits of nature right here in our cities, that we not expect people to get in their cars and go out to all the open space areas, but that we also provide those benefits right here in the city. So I hope you'll look at the brochure that I mentioned. There are high priority projects prioritized in each one of those 5 cities that we will be funding. And so I will close my part by saying that the funding that comes from Measure Q, $120 million over 15 years, will go to infuse the health and sustainability of the fastest growing county in California by continuing our open space preserves and trails, growing them in the unincorporated areas, investing in our cities, and making sure that our public continues to have the high quality of life that we have enjoyed, our parents have enjoyed, and hopefully our kids will enjoy. Thank you.
I am very, thank you. It's really wonderful to be here. Briefly references in my little bio that, I'm embarrassed to say how many years ago, when I was in college, I got involved in the Boston Chinatown community because my grandfather had lived there. A grandfather whom I had never met because I grew up in Hawaii, and helped as a student to start up a bilingual Chinese community newspaper in Boston Chinatown, which I'm proud to say still exists. It is exciting for me here because to see so many ethnic journalists here and to know the proliferation that they're in print and radio and TV. It's pretty exciting. I'm so thrilled because I did so many workshops with young college students, probably your age now, or who talked about the importance of being Asian American in America, and it was such a difficult time then because I think the Chinese were at that point in time less than 2% of the population, so politically it didn't seem to matter. But now we matter, and so I'm glad that you're here to help promote that and to also spread the word, and also wearing my League of Women Voters hat, which I believe so strongly in, is motivating them to be engaged in the civic arena here in this country and to be participating American voters. So my hat's to all of you and thank you. So what I want to talk about here is, since I have now lived here for nearly 30 years, so you can see my Boston activity goes back a long time. I want to talk about how it is everyday citizens who got this Open Space Authority going. And it was a group of just motivated citizens really like yourselves. And my hat's off to them because I wasn't part of it. I wasn't yet very grounded in this community at that time. But it was everyday citizens who came together and created the Friends of Santa Clara Valley Open Space. And my hat's off to Mark and to Melissa for heading up the Friends today for this measure. But it was these considered individuals back 20 years ago who started the Open Space Authority, got the funding on it, and my hat's off to that. And so this group of citizens, I'm proud to be part of it now, is coming back again to ask that we support at a higher level the ability for the Open Space Authority to conserve land. I'd like to tell you a little bit about the many, many people who are involved with that and have endorsed and supported this, myself included, and the League of Women Voters. Many community leaders from all walks of life, including former elected officials, educators, business professionals, and others have come on as sponsors and supporters, and our contributing staff time, and Mark works with Post and Melissa with the Greenbelt Alliance, and people like this and organizations like this who've come together and see that this is a measure that is important for everybody, regardless of what stripe or where you're from. We particularly are pleased, and I have to say, full disclosure, I've been so impressed with the Open Space Authority that I agreed a few years ago to serve on their Citizens Advisory Committee, and you know, I care about this area because it's now become my home. You know, having lived in Hawaii, Boston, and San Jose, we've got a beautiful spot here. Whenever I go down to LA and visit my sisters, I'm so glad I live here because of the visionary thinking that people had 20 plus years ago who said we've got to do something to save the hillsides. I've just gotten some, I just want to share with you the broad coalition of community leaders who are already supporting Measure Q. They include U.S. Congress members Mike Honda, Zoe Lofgren, and Anna Eshoo, Senator Jim Bell, Assembly Member Paul Fong, and hundreds of current and former locally elected officials and community leaders from San Jose, Santa Clara, Milpitas, Morgan Hill, Campbell, and unincorporated parts of Santa Clara Valley. The environmental organizations such as the League of Conservation Voters and the Sierra Club, business groups like Silicon Valley Leadership Group and the Santa Clara County Association of Realtors have all come out and endorsed. And just today, this is really pretty exciting news for us. Groups, like business groups, tend to not want taxes. I want you to know that today we've discovered that the San Jose Chamber of Commerce has endorsed Measure Q. I think that's important. And I've already mentioned that the League of Women Voters, and not just the San Jose, Santa Clara League of Women Voters, there are 5 local leagues in the county. And I'm pleased now that I'm no longer actually the current chair of the or president of the local league. I'm actually the council chair for all 5 leagues in Santa Clara County, and the entire county council of leagues of women voters of Santa Clara County have endorsed this measure. In addition, Asian Americans AKI for community involvement is a supporter endorser, as well as Silicon Valley Latino Democratic Forum. So many, many groups of just all stripes and from different directions have all come out in endorsement. I already made some comments about why this is important to me. I just want to speak a little bit of my Chinese roots. I like to think my father grounded into me that the Chinese are long thinking. You know, you look for the long, not the short-term investment, and land is always important to Chinese. Land is always important. So it's important that we understand this. But what I've learned as I've gotten older is that land has long value in terms of the environment. Clean air, clean water that Andrea talked about. And so join me in helping to protect that land around us so that we can have a good quality of life that this area is so well known for and which attracts all of us to this area. So thanks so much.
I want to thank Andrea, Sandy I should say, and the New American Media for allowing us to be here to share why we're supporting Measure Q. And we're all here to show support for the passage of Measure Q. It's obviously important and critical for the preservation and the conservation of our lands around Santa Clara Valley. And although I can go on and on about the wonderful things that are going to come about if it passes, which I'm sure it will, Andrea, I think, has already touched on many of the things that, many of the values that it's going to bring. So if you look on the agenda of speakers, it was actually listed that I was going to get a heartfelt appeal. So I'm going to attempt to tug at your heartstrings. So my role, as I see it today, is to give you a little feel for how things as it relates to nature and open land plays out in the community. Now, if you allow me, I'm going to share a little bit about myself. And if you had a chance to look at the bio, there's no way I can describe exactly where I came from in 150 words, but I'm going to share a little bit more with you right now. So I grew up in East San Jose. I'm a son of, I was actually immigrants. All my family was brought over from Mexico when I was about 3. And we lived in East San Jose in an affordable housing complex. And I often like to kid around and tell people that my view at the time of open space was my concrete patio that was the extension of my apartment. And for some of you that are familiar with East San Jose, I used to live in the Rancho Verde apartments. I just shared this earlier with someone that was familiar with. So my exposure to open space, it was non-existent. Surely we had strips of grass along the apartment complex where we could kick the ball around, but growing up as a Latino person in an immigrant community, I never had exposure to large areas of open space. I didn't really know what nature was. It just didn't exist. It wasn't in the sphere of knowledge or experience or anything like that. So now why do I share all this? I think one of the reasons I share it is that it's not unique to me. I don't think, obviously I'm 37, so this is a while ago when I was growing up, right? But it's not unique to me, and I truly believe by being out in the community, sitting on a nonprofit board in that part of town, all this still exists. There are kids like myself when I was growing up that had no view, that didn't take trips to Yosemite. I had to do that once I was older. Don't take summer vacations to Yellowstone. We don't get to see sort of the vastness and the wonderful thing that nature is. So imagine what would happen if actually something was in their backyard, close proximity where they can literally drive there and actually visit and experience nature. I think that would be such a wonderful opportunity, and that's one of the reasons I'm involved in promoting Measure Q. Now, I'm going to share with you a few anecdotes, a few stories about my recent experience to contrast it to as what I just shared with you when I was growing up. So there's a preserve in sort of the outskirts of South San Jose. It's an unincorporated area. It's called Rancho Cañada del Oro, I think it's called. And one day I saw a flyer. And I have 3 children, by the way, so they're going to come into the storyline, as you can tell. So one day I saw a flyer. I decided to take them out to this open space preserve. We went out there and it was pitch black, so it was an event taking place at night. And I thought to myself, well, what the heck is going to take place out there in the middle of nowhere at night, right? I was very excited because I had a sense as to what it was going to be. So we drove out there. Kids are terribly scared, right? Pitch black. We get there and we get to a parking lot, and there's a man with a flashlight sort of showing us the way where to park, right? And I thought, okay, that's a little odd. Kids were wondering where the heck I was taking them. So as we exit the car, we look out, we see a lot of little red lights out in the field. Wondering, well, what is that, right? The kids were just interested in figuring out what was going on. So as we got closer, you actually noticed they were all telescopes. They were all telescopes, and these people donated their time and their equipment to let the community, like my kids and everyone else here, if you choose to take advantage of that type of opportunity, to look out to the stars using these telescopes. Well, that night, my children's imagination and their experiences with nature was expanded tenfold, as was mine. We got to see the space station zoom across the sky. We got to see the rings of Saturn. We got to see Mars. And that wouldn't have been possible if that piece of land, that preserve, that open space didn't exist. And imagine if other kids in the community actually had, and families, had that opportunity. And they do. But I think it's going to be much more available to folks if we get this measure passed. And lastly, the other little story I want to share with you is I live in South San Jose in District 2, and that's what I represent on the Parks Commission. I'm the chair of the commission currently in District 2, South San Jose. So there's a park out there. How many of you heard of Marshall Cottle Park? Probably seen it in the news sometime back. A man donated land. He wanted to preserve it as open space. But this is unique in the sense that it sits in between a neighborhood. And I live not too far from there, and it's just a beautiful sight going out there, seeing the families when the sun's going down with that warm vanilla color. It's just quite an experience for me myself. Expansive trails, and you see families walking with their kids on their bikes, the dogs, people exercising, running, and you have a view of the mountains. And that's the type of stuff that's possible, and I know those are the type of things that are going to come out when the measure passes. The other thing I wanted to share is my why. Why I'm here. I sort of touched a little bit about that, but I wanted to expand on that. So why I'm here. Am I here because I want to preserve the scenic hillsides? Of course I am. Am I here because I want to increase the public access? Of course, and hopefully that will happen with the passage of the measure. Am I here because I want to connect trails? Which, as being the chair of the Park Commission, we're shooting for 100 miles of trails. We have about 50 so far. So does that interest me? Of course it does. But my why, my main reason for being here, is that I'm hoping that if I contribute to the passage of the measure, that it would give Andrea and her team the tools necessary to provide those opportunities I shared with you to other families like myself who grew up in East San Jose and really had no vision or experience in open space. So that's why I'm here. So thank you.
Thank you. We have another member of the Parks Commission?
Arts Commission.
Yes, Arts Commission. I misunderstood. Thank you so much. And wow, I'm delighted. This is one of the things that dear to my heart. And I'm so happy to see all of you here because I know you care. You're not caring for this life, you're caring for future lives. You're caring for our next generations. And I am honored and very impressed to meet all of you. And thank you so much for the organizers. Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. I know you're very busy, but you take the time and coming here and sharing your thoughts and all of that. I do share the same values. I can share with you that every day, after dropping my daughter to school, my husband and I, we spend 15 to 20 minutes walking together in the park before we go to work. I'm telling you, it's changed my life. It's wonderful to have fresh air, to hold hands. Even you have an argument yesterday, you forget about it. I just celebrated my 33 years of anniversary. Thank you. I'm saying that because a lot of people take me for 40 years old. I'm approaching 60 years, and I feel like 35. My son is 30 years old. Ben Manor asked me, your son is 23? Nope, that's a long time ago. But I'm telling you, we need to preserve nature. We need to enjoy nature. And I encourage you, if you haven't done that, come and join us. My office, every Sunday, we have what is called Walk for Fun. And we all put the walking shoes and we walk. Not only that we're having fun, but we're having fun with our loved ones and our communities and our friends. We walk. I've seen kids from 5 years old walking with grandpa and grandma. I've seen friends older than me, 70, 80 years old, come and walk with us. The first time may be difficult, but the second week, better, the third week, better, and everybody walk straight back. You know, not like this. I'm not expecting myself to walk like this in 70 years old or 80 years old. And we need, if we want to do that, we need to have our body too. And take the time and enjoy all of the parks that these folks work so hard to keep it beautiful for us. Enjoy it. I'm telling you, this is one of the things that I will fight with you. And yes, next time, if San Jose, Silicon Valley doesn't support anything, you just say Vietnamese American Chamber of Commerce, support it. You see they jump. You see. I can say that. I can say that. But I'm just kidding here. They are wonderful. I love all of the people working at the San Jose Chamber of Commerce. They're wonderful people. I ask for their advice and guidance too from time to time. But we work together. We work together in harmony. We may have differences. We may have different approaches. But we do have one goal, is we want our families to be safe, we want to have clean air, we want to have fresh water, we want good things around us, good environment. Am I correct? Thank you. And with that, I would like to say that each of us would commit that we will go out and we talk to 10 people and say, vote yes for Measure Q. And then you go and you talk to your 10 friends and say, vote yes for Measure Q, because it's an absolutely thing that has to be done. And I don't see anything that goes wrong with Measure Q. You have an agency that works and have records of being transparent and responsible. What do you worry about? Only $200 per acres to maintain our land, our parks, our recreations. I don't see any reason not to support this. And if you do, let me know. But so far, I heard all of the good things, and I would like to say that, please, each of us, go back to our community and talk to our friends, talk to our families, talk to our community members. Vote yes for Measure Q. Thank you.